The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? Welcome along to the webinar. Before we get started, can I just double check that you can all hear me okay and see my screen fine? It's a Convertri funnel getting started webinar. If you can just type in the question box just to let me know you can hear me and see my screen, that would be great. And then we can get going. Perfect. Okay, looks like we're ready to go. So, hello everyone, my name is Dan and I'm also joined today by Honor.
Hi guys, I'm Honor. I'll be presenting a little bit more later on.
Yeah, so Honor's going to be taking care of the editor tips and tricks section today. Before we get into that though, I'm going to show you how to build a simple lead magnet funnel from start to finish. And then also I'm going to take you through a couple of new features that we've added to the app in the last couple of weeks. So before we get started, I'll just show you all who I am. This is me here, just so you can all put a face to the name. You may have come across me in our Facebook group or on support if you've had any queries in the past. And hopefully today I can help you feel a bit more familiar with Convertri. So we're going to show you how to build something that looks a little bit like this. And the idea is that at the end you'll have or know how to make a working lead funnel where a prospect can come to your page, opt in here for a lead magnet. They'll then be added to an autoresponder of your choice, and then they'll be taken to a thank you page where they can download that lead magnet. And then, as I said, I'll show you some of the new features and we can go through any questions you have about the demo, and then we'll pass you over to Honor. She'll go through the editor and then we'll come back to myself for some questions at the end if you've got any. So before we get going, if I could just ask you all to pop in the questions box, just between 1 and 10, how familiar you feel with Convertri at the moment. So if 1 would be that you're a complete newbie, you haven't looked at it yet, and 10 was that you think you're an expert, if you could just let me know, just so we can get a little bit of an idea of where everyone thinks they're at before today. Couple of 3s I can see, a 2, Dave with an 8. Yeah, it's a nice variety there. So hopefully we can get those lower numbers up higher and we can solidify the ones that are higher up already. Okay, let's get into it then. So first thing that we obviously want to do is create our page. So we're here in our funnel and we're going to use this blue button to add a new page to our funnel. So we click that, and then what you'll see here is all of our templates. They'll all pop up in front of you. So if you wanted to use a template, obviously you can, but we're going to show you for the purpose of the demo how to build a page from scratch. And it is also quite fun to use the editor to build your own pages and get a little bit creative with it. So I'd always recommend building pages from scratch at the start and just find your way with the editor a bit. So we'll do that now, create a page from scratch, and then we'll just call it opt-in, as this is going to be our opt-in page. So once we've got that, we'll go into the editor by clicking on Edit Page. And this is going to give us a nice blank slate from where we can build our page out. So the first thing we want to do is get a background onto our page. So we're going to add an image to our page, and we're then going to use that image as the background. So if we go to the left-hand side of the page, you'll see this elements tray, and this is where you get all your elements that you're going to use when you're building your pages. So the one we want to use at the moment is image. So we'll click on image, and this is going to bring up the media gallery. And you can see we've got a few options here. We've got a list of folders. These are containing images I've uploaded in the past. And we've also got this option here to search Pixabay. Now, what Pixabay is, it's a free stock photo sharing website. So you can go to pixabay.com, type in an object or an animal, anything like that, and you'll be able to get images from the site that you can use freely on your pages. Now, we are actually directly integrated with them. So from our media gallery here, you can search Pixabay and it will pull images from their site, and you can then add them to your page. It comes at no extra cost. It's included with your subscriptions, and it's a really neat feature for you to find easy images that look really nice, and you can put them straight on your page. Now, I'll show you how it works. So if anyone could just write in like an animal or something they want me to search for on Pixabay, and we'll just show you a quick demo of how that works. Okay, so someone has typed in a horse. So we'll just search the word horse. And as you can see, it's bringing up a great variety of pictures, all to do with the word horse. And if we wanted to add one to our page, we can actually just click on it like that and then hit select. Now, you'll notice here that the resolution for the image is capped at 1920 by 1280 pixels. Now, this is the maximum resolution that a Pixabay image can actually have when you're using our integration. So although it is a great tool, I would recommend if you've got higher resolution photos, actually uploading them yourself and then putting them on your pages like that. Because Convertri's page speed is so fast, it's not going to actually hinder your pages at all. So you may as well get the best out of your larger images by uploading them yourself. So I'll show you how to do that as well now. So let's forget about Pixabay for the moment, go back to our home folder, and then you'll see this blue upload button in the top right hand corner, which if you were to click, it would bring up your files and you could then select an image of your choice. Now, as I said before, we've got the images here that I've uploaded in the past, and this is the one that I'm going to use for my background. So I've clicked on that and I'll hit select, and that will add it to the page. And if you didn't quite see there, I'll just go back and show you. The resolution was a lot higher than the Pixabay maximum. So you'll see there it was 5000 by 3500. It's obviously a lot higher, and therefore the quality is going to be a lot better. So we've got our image on our page now. And what we want to do to make it our background is hit this full width button. This is a double arrowed icon for full width, and that's going to stretch the image to the edges of the page, and we can then use the top and bottom drag handles to enlarge it like so, and that is going to act now as our page background. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is just get our header and our footer on the page. Now, this isn't really a necessity, it's more just for stylistic purposes, but it's a good idea to show you, I think, in this demo, as it does round the page off nicely. So to do that, we're going to use our panels on the elements tray. So this time we can either click it like with the image, or we can drag it on like so. And now we have a panel on the page, which we can move to the top and snap it to the top of the page, again making it full width, and then using the drag handles like so to resize it. So we can have it any size. It is only going to be just for a heading at the top, so we'll have it about this size. And from here, we just want to change the color of the panel. So it's just this default gray at the moment, but we do have a nice variety of colors to choose from. We actually have a huge variety, I must say, from our color picker. So we've come into the element properties using this blue button here, and then the background tab. Once we've opened that, we can open up the color picker, and this is going to give us a great variety of colors here. As you can see, we've got loads of different shades, and what you'll notice when I'm changing this color through the color picker, it's actually updating live on the page. So you'll notice we go from white here, it's going through the shades of pink all the way to a dark red, and being able to see that change on the page as it happens is, I think, a great design tool, because you can directly compare different shades of colors without having to, set it and then wait for it to load and change. You can see it as it happens. So that way you can get the best out of our color picker. Now, we do also have the option here for adding RGB values. So let's say we did really like this color and we wanted to use it on another page. We could make a note of these values and then just copy them into this box, and it would actually change the color like that as well. So for this page, we're just going to go for like a beigey color. Nothing that stands out too much, just nice and subtle. It's obviously personal preference, so feel free to play around with that yourselves. Then to confirm, we'll hit select, and we can close the element properties now. And instead of adding a new panel from the elements tray, we can actually make a direct copy of this one by selecting it like so, and then clicking on the clone tool here. So we'll hit clone. That's made a copy of that. and we can drag it down to the bottom where it will act as our footer. And again, you can see the pink snap line, so that's how we know that it's hit the edge of our image. So we're now going to put our form on our page, and we're not going to connect the form up to our autoresponder just yet. We're just going to make the form design. So again, we're going to use a panel for the backing, and we can resize that now so we have enough space to fit all of our information on it. Now, of course, you can change this again at a later time if you need to. If it needs to be increased or moved around the page, that's not a problem. But for now, we can move it there like so. Okay, so next we want to add our text. So if you have a look at our demo page once again, you can see we have got some text here that we can add. Now, I could copy out the text by using Control-C and then Control-V to paste it into a text element. But because I want to show you how our default text styles work, I'm just going to type it out. So if you just let me get that typed out now for the moment. So we'll start with the heading, 7 top tips for slimming without starving. And then the main copy. And this is really just to try and give your prospects an idea of what they're getting from their lead magnet. So just a little bit of copy that sort of sells them what it is that's on your thank you page for them to download, and that way they can be convinced to opt in. Okay, so lastly then, what we need to add is just a little prompt here, again using another separate text element, just to remind them to enter their details below. And finally, add just a little message to let them know that we're never going to spam them. And now, having a bit of text like this, so just reassuring your prospects that their details are safe, it's always a good idea, I think. People are quite reluctant to give out email addresses on the internet these days, and just giving them a little message to let them know that you're not going to be using it for malicious purposes is always a good idea. It's not a legal requirement, but as I said, I would always put something, even if it's just a little sentence like that on your page, just so that they feel a little bit more at ease when signing up to your list. So we've now got our text. And as I said, I want to show off now how we can set up the default styles for the page. So you'll notice at the moment that all of these text elements look the same, and we can actually change what the default text styles are for this page, so that the next time we add a text element, it will be a different font, maybe a different size. And by updating them now in the page menu, these ones on our page are also going to change as well. So to edit the default text styles, we're going to come into the page menu, and then we're going to use the default text styles tab. And here we have options to change the style of our text. So we've got a different font choices, font weight, size, line spacing, all these different options. And this will actually be now the default for when we use the paragraph text setting. So we'll change the font. And if you keep an eye on the background text, so the text down here, when I click on the font, so I'm going to change it to Lato, and if you have a look now, you'll notice that they all change when I made that change, and that's because they're all set to paragraph. So we'll keep the font size the same. We'll up the line spacing slightly just so it's a little bit more spaced out like so, and then we'll hit done. And you can see now that these, because they're all set to paragraph, so if we select that and hit more, you can see they're all on paragraph. They're all going to take the form of the default text style that I just set up. Now, obviously on our page, we have got a heading as well, and you'll notice that there was the option to have a heading setting, heading 1, heading 2. So we can actually set that up as well in the default text styles menu, just by selecting heading up here, and then we can make the necessary changes again. So we'll give it a different font this time, just so it stands out. And we don't need it to be 36. It can be about 26 should be fine. And bold font weight as well. Now, when I click done, you're going to notice that it hasn't changed automatically. And that is, of course, because we haven't actually set it to be a heading. So we need to change that. We've highlighted the text, used this more drop down. And now when we change it to heading, that is going to update. So it is matching the default text style that we just set up. And we can adjust the width of our text box like so that it fits nicely onto just 2 lines. Okay, so our form is nearly set up in terms of the way it looks. The last thing we need to do is add our form elements. So we're back over to the elements tray. This time we're using this little tick box and it's going to bring up a load of options. The ones we're interested in today are first name, email, and of course submit. And the submit button is going to allow your prospects to go to the next page once they've entered their information in here. So you'll also notice once I've added these elements, they don't take on the text styles that we set up. So these have their own individual settings. You can't set that for the page. But if you go to element properties, once you've selected one, you do have the option to customize them. So input properties, that's going to give you, you can even change the option, you have the option of changing the placeholder text. So let's say you wanted this to take down someone's telephone number. You could have it so it was written out like so. Obviously, we want to keep it as first name in this example. And we're going to change the font so it matches just to keep it consistent throughout. And then we'll do the same for email. And lastly, we'll also change the submit button. Now, with the submit button, there is an extra setting to think about, and that is the mode. Now, in this case, we do want it set to sign up, but when we go to our thank you page, we're going to be having a look at some of the other options. But if it is a form you're wanting to submit, you need to make sure it's set to sign up. So we'll change the font for this so it matches our heading this time. Make it bold and increase the size slightly. And then we'll actually change the label as well to download now. And that's just because even though they are signing up to our list, they think that they're going to be downloading something by clicking that button. So even though it will take them to the thank you page where they then download the file, it's a good idea to just keep that consistent with what you're offering. So I think that's always the way to go if you're offering, a lead magnet on your thank you page. So the next thing we need to do, you might be able to tell that my form, although it's got all the information we need, it's looking a little bit scruffy at the minute. Things are out of place and it's not exactly pleasing on the eye. So we're going to align these elements within our panel. And luckily we have got a set of alignment tools. That means you don't have to do this manually. So we've selected our panel and you'll see here the dotted pink lines around the edges of each element. That is going to signal that these elements are contained within the panel. So if we move this, and you'll notice there that this one clearly wasn't because it didn't move with it. Now it is. And we can move that all around almost like they're grouped. So now we've selected it, we can align the form. So we'll go to this alignment tool here, use the drop down, and we can then align them to the middle. So center align is what we're going to be using. And that will snap all the elements bang in the middle of this panel. And from there, we can then start to space the form out a little bit. So I'm using the arrows on my keyboard here. And I'm just moving around the elements so that they've got a little bit of space. Now, one thing that I should mention as well is with the default text styles, you can still edit individual text elements. So you'll notice here, this enter your details below. We probably want that to be a bit smaller. So we've highlighted it. And now we can come up to the quick actions toolbar and we've also got the option to change it and it won't affect any of the others. It will only affect this one. And we'll do the same with the spam text. And we can center align that as well. Okay, so the form's looking a lot neater now, but you'll notice that in between your first name, email and download, there isn't actually the exact amount of space. So we could obviously do this by eye, like by doing it manually like I'm doing now. But with our alignment tools, we've got a nice easy option, and that is if we select all of the elements, and to do that you just hold shift and click them all. Go back to our alignment tools and then simply select distribute vertically, and that is going to put even space between all those elements. So we're nearly done with our form in terms of the design of it. The last thing I want to do is just add a slight border to the edges and also change the transparency of it. So we're opening element properties again, and we've got the option here for borders. And if you want to change all the corners at once, you can hit this toggle. And once you've done that, you can either type in the number you want. So you see 50, that's quite large. So we'll go for about half that. And if you want to change it using the arrows, you've also got that option as well. I just think that a curved radius, gives it a little bit of a softer touch. It looks a little bit more pleasing on the eye. Again, though, that is completely up to you. You don't have to have the corners rounded like that. And lastly, we'll change the background. And this time we're opening the color picker again, but we're not actually changing the color. What we're going to use is this transparency toolbar here, and we can just drag it down like so until we are happy. Now you'll see as it gets more and more transparent, the text is harder to read. So we'll keep it nice and simple and go with about 70. That's not really going to have too much of an effect on the text itself. That's pretty legible to me. So again, drag it up and down like so, or you can type it in here if you want to make some smaller changes to it. So hit select and that will save it. And the last thing that we need to do on our desktop version of the opt-in page now is just add a privacy policy to it. So we're going to make use of the footer for that. And to do so, we're going to add a text element onto our footer. So it's on the panel. And then we'll just type the words privacy policy. As you can see, they're obeying the default text rules that we put out earlier. And then we're going to highlight the text and use our Hyperlink tool. So the little icon that looks like two chain links, we're going to click that. And now we've got the option to type in our link. So for this example, I'm just going to use Convertri's privacy policy page. Like so. Obviously, if you've got your own website, you might have your own link for that. So feel free to type that in there. And then before I click save, I'm going to select open in a new tab. And I think this is actually quite important, and I would strongly recommend that you do this on all of your pages. If you've got any links that can lead your prospects elsewhere, for example, with a privacy policy, I'd always have them open in a new tab, purely because that way your sales page, or your opt-in page in this case, is always going to remain open in their browser. If you didn't have this setting on, then they would go to the privacy policy and they might forget about the sales page altogether. They might then close the tab and then you've lost them. They're not on your page anymore, which means they obviously can't commit to that conversion, which is what we're all after. So definitely have that on opening a new tab. That's really important, I think. And like I said, that's just going to make sure that you aren't losing prospects unnecessarily. So once you've set that up, you can just hit save and you'll notice it's been underlined there like so. And I'm just going to center align it. And then I'm also going to center align the text element so it's nice and even. So there we've got our desktop page. I'm really happy with that now and how it looks. And I just want to check before we go to our mobile page, our thank you page, sorry, I want to check the mobile version. So you'll see here we've got two options, design for desktop and mobile. If I click mobile, what you're going to see is the automatically generated version of the page that the mobile algorithm has created. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll notice that in this case, it looks pretty much the same as our opt-in page on desktop, of course, obviously just to fit the mobile screen. So it's created this itself. You don't have to do anything to have this made for you. That's one of the amazing things with Convertri's mobile editor, is that not only do you have the option to build a page for mobile, but it also has an automatic conversion that it runs naturally. So you don't have to do any work to get this outcome. Now, you can still make changes. It's completely up to you. So let's just say on mobile, I wanted to move the heading around down here and then move the main text up, just so it was a little bit different, you know, or you might have elements that you want to move around on mobile. I can do that, and if I decide I'm not happy with it, I can simply hit remobilize, and as you can see from the little tooltip, that's saying that it's going to rerun the automatic mobile conversion. So if I click that and then remobilize all, that will put it back to the automatic conversion that it has done for us. So I'm happy with this personally. I don't think it needs any changes. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I'm going to come out of the editor and I'm going to be making my thank you page. So instead of actually creating a page from scratch now, what I'm going to do is similar to if I was using a template, really. I'm going to treat this page that I've just built as my template. So I'm going to clone it, and that's going to give me an exact duplicate of the page. And from there, I can make the small changes that I need so that we can have a working thank you page. So I'm going to click the 3-dot menu, this one here on the page card, hit on more, and then use the clone action. And we'll give it a name. We'll just call it thank you, like so. Okay, so as you can see from the preview card, it's exactly the same as my opt-in page. And if we open the editor, you'll be able to see that up close. There you go. So we've got the exact copy, and now we can make the changes we need so that it is a working thank you page. So first off, we don't need to have this text anymore. Well, we can change it slightly so they already know what they're going to be downloading because they've just decided to opt in for it. So we can just give them a prompt, something like, click the button below to download 7 top tips. Like so. And then with this space, we can get rid of the enter your details prompt, get rid of the first name and email, and the spam text can go as well because they're not entering their details anymore. So that just leaves our download now button, which we can move up like so. And then we can just shift up the bottom of the panel so that we've got a nice small box here from which our users can click the button to download our lead magnet. Now, we are going to have to attach our lead magnet to our page, and to do that, we're going to need this download button to be working, and we're going to have to change the mode that I spoke about earlier so that it fits to be a download button. So if we click on the button and then we go to element properties, we're going to go button settings, and then where it says mode, click the drop down, and you can see we've got the option to change it to a download button. And once I hit this, you're going to see we have another option here, and that is to add a file for download. So in this case, if I wanted to upload my file, I would hit on the little folder icon, and it's going to bring up a similar modal to the image gallery. This time it's our file library. And once again, it works pretty much in the same way. You've got here all your domains, all the files that you've uploaded to those domains. So you can see I've got my 7 top tips here already. If I wanted to upload one, I could obviously do that by using the button, but in this case, I can just click on that and then hit select. Now, before I do that, I do want to point out that individual file sizes can only be up to 40 megabytes. So let's say you have a file or a lead magnet or anything you want your prospect to download that's bigger than that. You can't upload it using our file library tool. What I'd recommend you doing instead is, if we come out of the file library, you can see here we've got the option for a link, and that brings up this box here where you can type in a link. So if you can get your lead magnet, whatever it may be, self-hosted somewhere like Amazon S3, probably your best bet, and then you can use the link and put it in that box, and then once your prospect clicks the button, it will take them to that link where they can then download it from that site instead. So it doesn't prevent you from actually having lead magnets bigger than 40 megabytes. It just prevents you from having them directly downloadable from your page here. But I mean, it would have to be a pretty big PDF for it to be 40 megabytes. So anything, regular size should be pretty safe. So we'll change it back to download, and this time we will upload our lead magnet like so. So that is going to be now ready for our prospects to download on the click. And we've got the option here to force download on click. This is kind of similar to opening a new tab. I'm going to leave this off because if I do leave it off, it opens the PDF, say in this example, in a new tab. If you do force download on click, it's not like they're going to go off the page. It just means that it's going to automatically download. And some people might not like that. So I'd prefer to leave it off just so that they have the chance to have a look through it before they actually save it to their computer. So our thank you page now is pretty much done. It's looking quite nice. Just so it stands out from our submit button, I am going to change the background color. This is completely just personal preference though, and I'll just give it a different look so people know it's different. And then we can hit save, and this time we're actually going to hit publish as well. So if I click publish, I can then give my page a published path. In this case, I'll just give it the thank you. And you can see here, this is now my URL for this page. So once I hit publish, that page is now live on the internet. Like so. And now the last thing we have to do is back on our opt-in page, and we just need to connect our form so that when people enter their details and actually hit the sign up button, they're added to your autoresponder list and they're taken to this page. So if we come out of this page now, and before we go back to our opt-in page, we can use the arrow here, like so, to connect it to our thank you page. And what that means is when I go to set my thank you page up, it will automatically suggest this URL as the destination. And believe me, it may seem like something you don't need to do, but it is going to help you, because if you've got a long URL or you've got loads of different URLs with loads of different paths, you're going to probably have trouble remembering it. I have actually done that on this webinar before. I have forgot to put the arrow. I've gone to set my form up and I've forgotten the URL. So definitely remember that one. It's really easy to do. Like I said, you just drag it along so it's connected to the thank you page. So we'll go into our opt-in page now and show you how to get the form set up. Okay, so we're back to our opt-in page. We're on to our form setup. So we're going to hit forms. And here is where you can select your autoresponder. So I'm going to choose MailChimp. You can see we've got other options here though that we're directly integrated with, but I myself have got a MailChimp account, so I'm going to use that one. Search for target. This is going to be the list that I've set up in MailChimp itself. And that is going to be where my subscribers, my prospects are going to, their details are going to land. So in that way, I can then retarget them with other emails, or if I've got an automatic setup, then that will go straight back to them. So you can see here we've now got our fields and we've got our field type. Now, I'll explain in more detail why this is important in a minute. At the moment, you can see that the only ones we've got on our page are first name and email. Email is actually a fixed field for MailChimp, so we don't have the option to not have an email box. And first name is our choice. And then the type, this type that we set here in the form modal will need to be the same type in the element properties. So I'll show you where you can set that up in a minute. But the reason for that is because if they're not the same types, then Convertri doesn't know how the information matches. So it's looking for the same types so that it can pass the information on to your autoresponder. So we've set that up now. We'll hit next, and like I said, you can see here it's suggested already our thank you page. And if we had multiple pages with multiple URLs, connected to this page, they would also come up in the suggestions box like so. And make sure to leave this toggle off so that it's grayed out, because we want it to redirect to our thank you page. So we'll hit done, and we'll give our form fields a once over. To do that, select the element, form field settings, and as you can see, the field type here is the same as what was the field type in the forms menu. And then for email, again, we've got the same. And you've got the option here to set it as required. You can see on email, I have got it set to required. First name I haven't, because if people don't want to put their name, that's up to them. You could put it if you want to, if you want to be more personable with your marketing emails, that's perfectly fine. Again, that's just a personal preference. So once again, we'll publish this page and we'll call it opt-in. Now we have this published, we have our lead funnel up and running. So I'll go to view page and you can see firsthand just how quick the page will load. There you go, instantly, and even despite the extremely large image size. And we've now got a live opt-in page that if you went to the URL here, signed up, you would be taken to the thank you page where you could download our lead magnet. So that is going to complete the demo. Has anyone got any questions on that demo? If you've got more general questions about Convertri, if you could please save those for the end, and we'll go through those before we end the show today. But anything about the demo we've just done there that you know, anything you want me to show you again, or any questions you might have relating to that, I'll be happy to answer those now. Okay, we've got a good question in from Kenny, and it might be something that some of you haven't noticed in the editor because they are quite inconspicuous, and that is about these blue guidelines here. And you'll notice that I can't move them around on my page. So Kenny's basically asking what they're for and whether or not they're important. Now, they are just guidelines. So in that sense, all they're there for is to basically act as a safe area. So anything within these two guidelines, you know, will appear on any sized monitor. Now, when we started Convertri 5 years ago, the screen's average screen size was smaller. So they are quite narrow at the moment. Anything, you know, where my cursor is now is going to be safe on most monitors. If you want to change the default, you can go to display and you can see the guideline width here. If I move those up, and you can see on screen the blue lines are stretching out like so. And if you have a play around with it and you decide you don't like them, you can always restore the default guidelines like so. So that's a great question, Kenny. Thanks for that one. Okay, it doesn't look like we've got anything else at the moment, which is fine. Like I say, if you think of anything, just hold out to the end if you can, and we can go through that together. So before I pass you on to Honor, I'm just going to show you a few of our latest features that we've released in the app over the last couple of weeks. And the first one I want to show you is to do with our sticky header, which we've now enabled for our shared headers and footers. So some of you might not know, we have an option to have a shared header and footer for the entire funnel. So if I go into this menu here, you'll see I've got these two cards, and this is where I would edit my master header or my master footer. Now I've just got a simple one set up here, but if I actually enable this on all of my pages, it will appear on each and every page. I won't have to edit it or add it to each page by actually building it out. I just need to click one button and it will appear on my pages. So let's go to my opt-in page and I can show you what I mean by that. So if we open the opt-in page up and then we go to the page menu, we then have the option to turn on our header. Now what we've recently done is we've allowed the headers to become sticky. So that means that when you scroll down the page, they will actually stay in view. So obviously that's really good if you want like a message to stay on there. So for example, if you have like a menu that you want to be in view the whole time, that's a good way to make use of this feature. So I'll show you how it works without the new feature, and then I'll show you it with the new feature enabled. So if I hit done, you'll see my header here has appeared. If I republish my page, and then I view my page, you can see here, this is now on my page. And when I move down, it moves down, you know, it goes off the screen. The view of the header has gone. So that's without sticky enabled. And now if we were to go back to our page and enable the sticky header like so, you'll notice nothing's changed in the editor. So if I publish it and then view my page, now when I scroll down, it remains in view, which, like I said, if you've got like a menu you want, like I have here, that is in view the whole way when people are scrolling, say you have quite a long sales page, it's a good idea, I think, to have your headers sticky in that sense. So that's quite a cool little feature we've added over the last couple of weeks. The next one that I want to show you is relating more to analytics and how you're going to be looking at tracking the performance of your pages. Now, you do have the option to have a look here at your page views and the conversion details for each page, but we've also introduced this in the analytics tab as well. So if I click analytics, this is now going to be pulling all the information from this funnel in particular. And once it's got that information together, it's going to present it in a nice, neat fashion for us, which is really useful to compare your pages and how they're doing with each other. So this level of analytics isn't something we've had the whole time here. We've recently introduced this. So I'm going to show you now the latest installment to our analytics upgrade. And like I said, that is to do with page performance. So once it's got all that for us, I will show you. And if we scroll down here, you can see recently as well, we've got these breakdown by location. So that's showing me where people are who have clicked on my page. You can see it's got the split between desktop and mobile and tablet, etc. But the one we're focusing on today is this page performance here. This is the latest edition. And as you can see, it's got all of the pages in our funnel and it's listing them with the one with the most views at the top. And it's also then got conversion rate percentage here as well. And I just think this is useful. So you can basically compare how well your pages are doing with each other. You don't have to click on each page card and remember the information. Here in the analytics dashboard, you've got it all right in front of you without having to work hard at all. Okay, the last feature then that I'm going to show you, if we go back to our campaigns, and I'll go back to my Getting Started webinar funnel, it's to do with moving a page to another funnel or even a domain, but I'll show you it with a funnel today. And basically what the feature is that now when you move a page to another funnel, it will actually keep the published page path when you open it in the editor. So all you have to do is republish it. You don't have to remember what the page path was. And if you want to reuse it, you can. So let's just take this page here, for example. If we go into the editor, and if we click publish, you'll see that my published page path is sticky header. So if I come out of this now, and then I use the 3-dot menu and then hit more, I can then use the move to action to move it to a different funnel. So let's say I wanted to move it to my dog's training funnel. So if I click that and hit move, like so, you'll now see that we've been taken to my dog training funnel, and here is my page. Now if I go into the editor, and obviously it isn't published on this funnel, and I go into the publish box, you can see here that it's remembered my path. It's on a different domain and it's still remembered it, and we've got this message here. We thought you'd like this path because you used it before, and obviously you have got the option to choose a new one if you like. So if I wanted to write a new one, there you go, you can do that. So I think that's a great feature, especially if you're working with loads of different pages. You obviously don't want to have to keep, a note of them everywhere. It's just going to make things more stressful. So the fact that it remembers it for you is a great bonus, in my opinion. Okay, so that is me done now for today, guys. We'll come back to me for the main questions you've got at the end, but I'm now going to pass you over to Honor, who's going to take you through her favorite tips and tricks in the editor.
Hi guys, let me know if you can hear me in the chat, but my name is Honor. I work on support just like Dan. Here I am is a picture of me to put a name to a face. You might have seen me in the Facebook group, and also I do a lot of the emails as well. So if you've ever popped us a support email, it's likely me or Dan got back to you. So we can be found there hanging out. today I'm just going to cover some of my favorite tips and tricks for Convertri. This is going to be just how to optimize. Dan's showing you how to start a funnel, and now I'm going to show you how to keep efficient and time save so that you are making the most of your Convertri experience, which will be super, super useful. So to get started, I've just opened my page, like I said, and I'm just using one of our templates. And I'm having a look through. I think the first thing I'd like to do is remove this whole section. Convertri has a ton of templates, which are super, super useful. However, you might not want every single part of the template. You might really like this setting, but maybe you don't offer a menu. Maybe you're not a coffee shop. So I'm going to delete this whole section here, but in a way that isn't too messy. The first thing I'm going to do is turn on element outlines. We're going to display and then toggling on element outlines. This just means I can see what I'm doing. It's really, really useful. In case an element goes missing, for instance, you'd be able to see a little pink box around it or anything like that, it would show up. So to use this to delete the whole section would be that you can see a pink line here. This is because this indicates that there is a whole backing panel here. So the color of the backing panel is black as an example, so you can tell what I am talking about. So in order to delete all of these elements, rather than delete them individually, we just delete the panel. I'm going to be talking about panels a lot because they are one of Convertri's greatest features for time saving. So I'm going to click the whole panel, and then in the top toolbar, I'm just going to use the delete selected button. Looks like a little bin. And voila, that whole section is gone. I didn't have to fiddle around deleting all my individual elements. So that's my first kind of thing, is that, you know, panels are a great way of grouping elements and then deleting them if needs be. So I'm happy about that, but now I've got all of this kind of space between the two pieces of content I actually want my user to see. So again, much like deleting, I could go through and move these all individually, but that's really time consuming. And also, I don't know, you know, I've worked hard on the alignment of this. I don't want to be having to make everything look precisely exactly the same. Well, I actually don't have to. So in order to get this to move to the appropriate place, we can select this backing panel again. So we know that we've got it because we've got that little bit of blue there. And next to the delete selected button we used, we actually have a remove white space above option. So this will snap this element, panel element, up to the next element. So if I select this, it has now tucked in, and you would never even have known that that menu was there. And I really didn't have to do that much to achieve it. The whole of the page snapped up. It wasn't just that panel. So everything is right where I wanted it to be before, and my page is looking really good. There might come a point when you're editing your page that you want to get rid of that whole section, but actually you do want it to introduce something here. Maybe I want a larger gap. Maybe I do want a small banner advertising something. That is totally fine. We actually have a keyboard shortcut for moving all of these elements down without individually moving them down. So in order to do this, hold down Shift and then grab the backing panel where you want to move. You can see everything moves, and you can see that it's not, you know, it's not being pulled over this. They've all moved down at the same rate. So I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to hold down Shift and move. So that is such a great way of reordering your page. I use that more than I care to admit, I have to say. Just to keep things exactly how you want them. Like, editing shouldn't be a chore, it should be a joy. So remembering stuff like that really helps. So if you're taking notes, that was holding down Shift and then holding and dragging. So now I've shown you that, I'm going to show you my other favorite keyboard shortcut, which is Alt drag. So exactly the same thing, but rather than holding down Shift, we're holding down Alt. What I'm going to do is, by achieving that, I'm going to replicate these three images. So hold down Alt and drag the element you want to replicate, and you have two of them. So I'm just going to do it again to give kind of a picture of it. There we go. So hold down Alt and drag. So that has now duplicated all of these and really easily done it. If you have an element that you worked really hard on, your text styles, or how it's centered its exact size, and you need it all over the page, there's no need to keep redesigning it. Again, time consuming. We want editing to be a joy. So just like that, I've now got exactly the same element on my page, which is so super useful. I'm going to reorder these because they're on my page now, but they look a little bit messy. And the best way to do that is actually back with panels. So I'm not going to stop talking about panels because they are great. So if you go to the elements tray and select the panel element and drag it to where you want it to be, I need all of my elements that I want to be affected by what I'm doing inside this panel. So using those pink element outlines, I can see them even though the panel's currently sat on top of them. Next thing is I don't want the panel to be sat on top of them. And so I'm going to send my panel right to the back. So now you can't see it. You can see its element outline, but the user, for instance, wouldn't be able to see this. In order to affect these elements, it needs to be sat directly behind them. So I'm just going to bring it forward. There we go. So it's now in front of the back panel and then behind the elements I want to be affected. I like to think of them like sheets of papers. There are layers to it. That is a good way of imagining how your panels are working. So like I said, I want all of these to be more aligned, look a bit nicer, but I don't want to fiddle around and just randomly align them. So Dan's already introduced you to the alignment tool, and I'm going to use it again because it is one of our best time-saving techniques. So select your backing panel and then go up to the alignment tool and click the down arrow. So we know that it's got our container, it says container mode. That's just another word for panel. When panel has things in it, we call that containment. This is a container, so don't get confused by that. You've got the right thing. So there's lots of different options here, but I think that the first thing I want to do is make sure that these all middle align, so they are all the same level at the top. So selecting that, they've all snapped to the middle. That's starting to look a lot neater, and I'm liking it a lot, but I want them to be spaced out because currently they're overlapping with each other. Am I going to just pull the editor across? No, I'm not. Instead, I am going to align them across, which you can do justify vertically or horizontally. We're going to do horizontally in this instance. And there we go. So using that container now, all of my images are completely spaced out and exactly how I want them on my page. It's really important to note here as well that, like with much of this page, you can make your panel transparent. So I could easily have this panel completely see-through to the user and to me, but it is allowing me to make those all super important changes. So that is panels and alignments there. I'm actually going to move on to the mobile editor next. Dan touched on the mobile editor and talked about how great it is with Convertri, and I am going to keep going, but I'm also going to show you how to make the most of it. So we've got the remobilize button up here. We'll be offered that when we've made changes to our page and we need to remobilize. So that has now updated my page, and you can see that it looks okay at the top, but it's actually not grouped my descriptions for my different foods correctly. So on the desktop page, this would say bread with this text underneath. Pastry would have its respective text. That hasn't happened here. Now, there is a good reason for this. So if I go back to desktop, so it's easier to demonstrate, I like to think of it like reading a book. When our mobile editor view first reads your page to turn it into a mobile view, it reads your page like a book, line by line. So it goes across here, says, right, those two elements, across here, and then it reads these three as a single line, groups them, and then does these three as a single line and groups them. It doesn't know that that's not wrong, and in a lot of cases that produces a great mobile page, but in this instance, it's not looking so good and it's not very clear. So once again, I'm going to use panels to the rescue. So I'll just take one final look. So this is what it looks like before I use panels. Everything is all broken up. So then we'll go back to the desktop, and I'm going to add a panel behind each of these three. So again, I'm still using element outlines just to get the best scope of this. I know I've got the whole element in there, which is super duper useful. So there we go, all three of them are, and I'm going to do what I did before so I can actually see my elements. So I'm just going to send this to the back and then bring forward so that I can still see it, and just do that on the other two as well. So what this is going to change is that Now, when it reads my elements as a book, it reads these as it does, and then coming onto here, it will see this whole chunk and it will group this all together. So sometimes we just need a little push and a shove to the mobile editor to make sure it's really understanding what we're getting at, and this is it. So it really didn't take me long to fix that issue. If I go back to the mobile view, I didn't even have to click anything. It automatically re-registered that, which, just so useful. And of course, like I said, this could be transparent. You wouldn't see it, but it would be doing the job it needed to do. So that also demonstrates why it'd be quite important to, as you design, keeping your panels in check and everything means that in long term, your editing is going to be really simple and easy. I'm going to give another example of that at the bottom of my page because there's somewhere else that the mobile view doesn't quite get the hang of. So these icons here, quite common to have on a website, have your social media, are currently laid across, but if I go to my mobile view, they are not. Yes, there they are. And they're looking, they're stacked on top of each other, and I wanted them to be across because that's how I had them in my desktop. So it's exactly the same issue, reading them like a book element by element and then stacking them. So to change this, it's panels again. So we add a panel to our page. I don't know why I added it at the top. We add our panel to our page and bring it all the way down here. So as you can see, it's covering everything. I'm just going to make it the right size, include my little 4 icon elements, and again, send to the back and then bring forward so that you can see it. There we go. So they're again in their own panel. Now, if I go back to the mobile view, they're across, which is exactly how I wanted them to be. One thing that is interesting to note, and this is a really good demonstration of it, is this box only has a little bit more to go either side of it in this view, whereas obviously in the desktop it's got oodles of space. So Dan touched on this with Kenny's questions about the guidelines. Obviously, if you can imagine, this is kind of the standard size of a monitor. The mobile is much more kind of here. This is actually, to be exact, 300 pixels wide. So right now, that's not really affecting anything on my page, but if I actually made my element wider, just check it's more than 300 across by going to element properties and positioning. So my width is 532, so it's more than 300. And I go back to my mobile view, they've stacked again because the mobile view has seen it and gone, oh gosh, that's far too big for me on the mobile view. I need to remove and move around these elements so that they make sense to me. So it will stack again. So if you're using containment and it doesn't seem to be quite responding, do check the width of the element itself, which I found in element properties and then positioning, because it might be what's causing your issues. And it's really, really easy to fix. So that is all I have for tips and tricks. Those are kind of our favorites that we think are just going to really, really save you time. I'm just going to see if you guys have any questions about what I just spoke about, and if not, I'll pass back to Dan so that he can finish up for us. There's nothing too much I can see there for me, so I am going to let Dan take control again and finish off with you guys, but had a lot of fun, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest.
Thanks a lot for that, Honor. And I really hope all of you guys have taken a lot away from that. As always, we want you to save as much time as possible in the editor, and also get your pages built like Honor showed you there so they're ready for mobilization. That's really important, especially seeing as the amount of traffic that is generated on mobiles these days. So before we finish up today then, is there anything else you guys want to know about Convertri in general? Whether it's just a question about using the editor again or building some pages, anything like that, just let us know and we will get those answered for you. Okay, we've got one question in, which actually is a great question. So it's from James and it's relating to cloning elements. Now, what he's asked is, we both there, me and Honor, showed you two different ways to clone an element on the same page using the clone button. and using the keyboard shortcut. Now, what James is asking is, can you clone an element to another page? And the answer to that is yes. And I think that is really useful, because if you've got a loads of pages in your funnel and you want to have the same elements on those pages, instead of just having to, for example, say you've designed loads of different ones, loads of different elements together to make something, you don't have to build that again on another page. You can just clone it. So let's go into our opt-in page, and what we'll do instead of using something on the page, we'll add something else. So we'll just add another panel to show you this. And we'll just change the color of it just so you can see that it's an element in its own right. We'll keep it nice and simple for the demo. So let's just give it a blue like that. And now if we want to put this blue panel onto our thank you page, for example, you can hit the clone drop down like so. And then you've got three options here: clone to a layer, clone to another page, or even to the shared header. In this case, we want to clone it to another page. So we'll hit the clone to another page option, and then we're going to get our options here. So our domain, our funnel, and then our target page. Now we could again choose any of these that are connected to this domain, or if I want to go back to my dog's training one, I can do that. But just for this example, we'll keep it simple and we'll go to our thank you page. And you can see we've got different positions here as well, different options. So we've got original, which will put it in roughly the same place. We've got top, and we've also got bottom. So we'll just keep it at original. We'll then hit clone. And if we now come out of this page and go into our thank you page, you can see here importing one cloned element. That's letting us know that it's doing that. And what do you know? It is there on the page. So a nice and easy way to get elements from one page to another is by using that clone elements to another page feature. So that's a great question there, James. Thanks for that one. And Dave, I can see, is asking about our auto webinar feature coming from beta into more advanced stages. We can't provide any timelines on that at the moment. It is still in the beta phase, but if you keep an eye out on our Tuesday updates for any updates that might be relating to our auto webinar feature, you should be able to find out from that. Okay, any other questions? Last call for questions then, guys, before we wrap this up for today. Okay, in that case, I will just quickly point you towards our knowledge base, so help.convertri.com. If you have any other queries and you think you might be able to find them out through here, then please do have a look on our knowledge base. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys. And I'll also drop in our support email, which is support@convertri.com. And if you've got any questions, any issues you're having with pages of your own, or just anything you want to know, maybe you think of a question later this evening, please feel free to give us an email there, and we're always happy to help you. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed today and learned a lot, and we'll see you all very soon.